Booster Gold finally has a showrunner. James Gunn's DCU slate is starting to finally come to life, and we've got updates on even more projects, including some unexpected spin-offs for Mr. Terrific and Jimmy Olsen. There's a lot to get into, so let's talk about what's going on with the future of the DCU and why I think this next batch of shows might be exactly what the universe needs. All that and more in today's video. So Booster Gold finally gets a showrunner in David Jenkins. For those of you who don't know who that is, he created the comedy series People of Earth and Our Flag Means Death. Both are comedy shows that develop loyal fan bases, and unfortunately both got cancelled after 2 seasons. But from the look of both shows, Jenkins has a very specific way of tackling very weird and quirky characters, which is why I think the DCU brass decided to give him this job in the first place. Now, if you're unfamiliar with who Booster Gold is, I'm going to go over the bare-bones summary of the character. Michael John Carter was born in the 25th century. In the comics, he was a star quarterback for Gotham University on a football scholarship, before being expelled for betting on his own games and losing on purpose. Being disgraced in the public eye, he got a job working night shift at the Metropolis Space Museum. He ends up stealing a bunch of display items that belonged to several powerful metahumans to use for his suit. He then travels back in time with his robot sidekick Skeets to the present-day DC universe, where he uses his knowledge of the future to become a rich and famous superhero, basically pulling a Biff Tannen from Back to the Future Part 2 with the sports almanac, but you know, he's doing hero stuff. The character is actually pretty popular and has shown up as a member of the Justice League in the early 1990s, and this isn't the first time that he's appeared on TV. Booster Gold has shown up in Smallville, Justice League Unlimited, and there was even a sci-fi TV show that never really went anywhere. But now that the series has someone officially attached to write and showrun it, if the pilot does well, we may finally get a proper Booster Gold series. With David Jenkins involved, I think he'll bring a lot of the same energy to Booster Gold, probably even giving the series a comedic bend, which would help bring in more variety in tone to the DCU. You've got Superman as the crowd-pleasing regular superhero film, Creature Commandos and Peacemaker going full R-rated gory comedy, and Clayface being straight-up body horror. So putting in more grounded, character-driven series about Booster will fit right in. Now, as far as fan casting goes, a lot of names have been thrown around. The most popular casting rumor was Kumail Nanjiani, but DC already shot that one down. Some people mentioned Anthony Starr, but when asked, he said he was done with the superhero stuff after The Boys, and yeah, I can't blame him at all. Now, one that did make me chuckle in the comments of the comic book movie subreddits was Shane Topp from Smosh being cast, but to be clear, that one was never serious, that was a joke. In casting Booster Gold, I mean, he's a buff white blonde guy, so you've got a lot of choices. My personal favorite, and yeah, I know it's gonna be kind of a basic choice, is Glenn Powell. He's been on fire in Hollywood lately, and I think he can really sell the whole disgraced, fame-obsessed football player who becomes a corporate-sponsored superhero pretty well, don't you? That being said, I would love for this series to actually get made at DC, especially with all the other shows that we have in the line right now. Having a more straightforward comedy, kind of in the vein of those FX comedies or maybe even Ben Edlund's The Tick, could be a good change of pace. There's also a lot that you can do with this character, especially if they want to take a shot at celebrity obsession and corporate sponsorships. That's the kind of thing that would fit into the current DCU storyline. Considering that the Justice Gang are sponsored by Lord Tech and Lex Luthor tried to have his own team in Planet Watch, there's a lot of potential with that material, and Booster Gold is the perfect character to explore that kind of content. The Boys kind of plays in this space too, but they go full cynical with it. Booster could be more delusional and desperate, like imagine him posting all of his superhero saves on TikTok to try and go viral, because in a world that already has metahumans, you kinda have to stand out when someone like Superman exists. It sounds kinda cringe, but it fits the storyline pretty well, and I think they could do a lot with it. And if they wanted to go all in, they could even tie in Blue Beetle. James Gunn confirmed that Jamie Reyes is still part of the DCU. but we don't know when he'll show up next. And considering that Ted Kord, the second Blue Beetle, was famously Booster Gold's best friend in the comics, was missing in the Blue Beetle movie that, yes, I know isn't considered canon, but the character is until they say otherwise, it would not be a stretch to really have Jamie's version help Booster track him down. That'd be a cool way to bring both characters together and officially tie them into the DCU. But more than likely, they're probably going to stick with an origin story first. Booster Gold isn't really an A-lister character, so general audiences aren't going to know his backstory like they do Superman or Batman or hell even Spider-Man. Speaking of Superman, we also got word that James Gunn is working on spinning off Mr. Terrific and Jimmy Olsen into their own shows, which honestly could be fun if they do it right. Eddie Gathegi's version of Mr. Terrific was a standout in the movie. I'm not really sure what type of show they put him in because, well, to be entirely honest, I don't have much experience with the character outside of his Justice League Unlimited appearances. I know, give me a break. I've got a lot of stuff to read up on. But considering that James Gunn created both of these versions of these characters, it wouldn't be shocking if he writes the scripts himself. I just really hope that he doesn't burn himself out in the process. And then there's Jimmy Olsen. He was also a standout character for me, and I enjoyed every scene that he was in, especially his with Eve. Dude's got that whole ladies man energy, and it actually is very comic accurate. The man has had a lot of girlfriends in the comics if you didn't know. I'd honestly be down for a show that's just him doing journalist stuff in Metropolis and hanging out with the other journalists in the Daily Planet, getting into weird situations with aliens or supervillains and trying to make rent and dealing with work drama. Then at the end, maybe we get a Superman cameo with David Cornsweet giving him the signal watch. Hey, we got the hypno glasses, so why not? There's also a rumor going around that Jimmy's show might actually be more of a crime anthology and that it might focus on DC villains, with one of the big ones being Gorilla Grodd. Now keep in mind, all the articles on this are citing one specific industry insider, so I'm gonna just say, take all of that with a grain of salt until someone more reputable reports it too. You know how it is with superhero leaks, stuff gets thrown at the wall all the time and half of them aren't even true. And for those asking, how can they do a whole show about Jimmy Olsen? Doesn't he not have powers? Well, there was a series called Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen that ran from 1954 to 1974. And yeah, a lot of the stories were just him turning into weird stuff. He became like a turtle guy, a werewolf, a genie, all kinds of nonsense. They were old comics, don't worry about it, that happened all the time. So there was definitely a history of him carrying his own stories, so it just makes sense. So yeah, if Booster Gold ends up joining the whole lineup, we're kinda looking at a really different slate of shows than what we've gotten before. It's not just the usual superhero defeats villain, then joins the universe waiting for an Avengers movie formula. And not that there's anything wrong with that. Marvel has been trying to mix things up too, but DC actually feels like they're playing with their tone a little bit more intently. You've got horror with Clayface, R-rated animations with Creature Commandos and the Mr. Miracle Show, Peacemaker Season 2, and now maybe a comedy with Booster Gold. Then whatever they're cooking up with Mr. Terrific and the journalist crime anthology maybe series with Jimmy. It's kinda crazy, but in a good way. It actually feels like there's some variety in the DCU, something that feels fresh and new compared to what Marvel's been doing in their giant connected storyline. And long term, that's a good thing for DC, because it means that they can bring in different kinds of talent and audiences into the universe. Hell, if they ever found a way to do a mockumentary style show in the DCU like The Office, I'd watch that in a heartbeat. We almost got that with Damage Control with Marvel, and then that just never happened, so, you know. Still waiting for that kind of show. Anyways, that's all I've got for this video. Stay tuned for our Fantastic Four coverage later today. Don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe and drop us a mailbag question for a future video. And we'll see you guys next time.